GBC News, the headlines. Fabian Picardo has said a lot of the legal text for the treaty has already been drafted. The Chief Minister explains the UK-EU agreement would require a new common operating area at the airport. The previously agreed 4-year limitation has now been scrapped, but there will be a review. And the GSLP members pay tribute to their leader outside Number 6. Good evening. As the sun sets on the first full day since a political agreement was concluded between the UK and the EU over Gibraltar, more details have emerged on what it contains. We will be bringing you those details as well as reactions from across the community, including the gaming industry. But first, Fabian Picardo has said a lot of the legal text for the treaty has already been drafted. It echoes the words of Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez, who has told the Spanish press the full text of the treaty is expected in the autumn. The Chief Minister arrived in Gibraltar aboard the BA morning flight, hours after having completed the political agreement over Gibraltar's future relationship with the EU in Brussels.
Chief Minister, your thoughts after a very hectic 24 hours in Brussels?
Well, I was here at the airport with Joseph and with Michael boarding the Foreign Secretary's plane to Brussels about 24 hours ago. It was, of course, the final throw of the negotiation. I had the parameters from my cabinet of what it was that I could and could not agree. And we landed the deal well within those parameters. The deal now is going to be turned into legal text. A lot of it has already been drafted, much of it still to be completed. And it's a very good deal for Gibraltar. It's the right deal for Gibraltar. It's the deal that protects Gibraltar's sovereignty and the full integrity of the territory of Gibraltar. It does all of the things, and no more and no less than the things that I explained to the people of Gibraltar in respect of the New Year's Eve agreement, and which the people of Gibraltar returned me to government with Joseph, with the government team, to turn into this treaty with the European Union.
Are you elated, exhausted? Your voice sounds a bit raw.
Well, I'm exhausted, I think. Thank you.
And the Chief Minister has given more detail on how Schengen checks could work at the airport. Shortly after his return, he told Gibraltar Today the UK-EU agreement would require a new common operating area at the airport. He said it would be a space for Gibraltar and Spanish law enforcement, half of it in Gibraltar, half of it in Spain. Mr. Picardo said the solution does not result in any loss of sovereignty. He addressed concerns about boots on the ground, referring back to comments he made in early 2021.
A common operating space for Gibraltar Police and Gibraltar Customs and Spanish Police and Gibraltar Customs. Yeah. So the argument I put then, which was successful because in the general election people accepted it, was that yes, we would therefore see that there was a space in which Spanish officers would be operating in Gibraltar and the same space in which Gibraltar officers would be operating in Spain. So there was neutrality in effect in the way that this was being created. Spain understood the sensitivity for us. We understood the sensitivity for Spain. So we have created in effect a magic box, which is as much Spain as it is Gibraltar. Let me give you an example. If it's 5 meters by 10 meters into Gibraltar, it's 5 meters by 10 meters into Spain. So 50 square meters into Gibraltar, 50 square meters into Spain. Law enforcement officials and law enforcement officials only will be able to access that for action purposes. And people who, not necessarily residents of Gibraltar, who will not have to go through the Schengen check, but people who are coming to Gibraltar will, if the machine doesn't do it, because 99% of people will only see a machine, they will then go to a second line check there where they can have their passports checked. If there is an SIS alert, then they would have to deal with it there. If there was a Gibraltar alert, we would also deal with it there. There may be customs procedures dealt with there in that common operating space, not at Gibraltar Airport, the whole of Gibraltar Airport.
It's an extension of.
It's in this extension of.
And only there.
And only there. And somebody says, well, hang on, Chief Minister, you've just in effect said that Spanish boots are going to be 50 square meters in. Well, because Gibraltarian boots can be 50
Yes.
square meters into La Linea or into Spain. That's how we have resolved that thorny issue, so that we give each other the operational capability that we need to do the thing that we need in a way that doesn't in any way impinge on the sovereignty of Gibraltar. Because if we have, in anybody's analysis, permitted an impingement on the sovereignty of Gibraltar, then by the very simple same analysis, that person would have to cheer that we have achieved an impingement into Spanish sovereignty. So one cancels the other out. And that is what I explained in 2020, and I've explained it in the general election, and I therefore am clear. And the cabinet is clear because we have debated this in Parliament and in cabinet. And in cabinet, we have actually also looked at the detailed architectural drawings from our side, which are not completely agreed, but the concepts are set out and are agreed. And the cabinet of Gibraltar fully agrees that. That means it's agreed by all of the members of the Gibraltar cabinet and the GSLP executive committee, who fully have understood this, and the Liberal Party Executive Committee, and, in my view, the electorate that have fully understood this, because I've explained it this clearly.
I must disagree with you on that, I'm afraid.
Well,
I think that it takes a long
but I
time
have-
to explain complex
I have
matters to people.
I have the videos of me explaining it to you and to Christine.
I'm not saying that you haven't said it. I'm saying that I think it
sorry.
takes time
Yes.
for people to understand.
Well, I agree with you on that.
To
but
vote
it's
on that basis.
But it's not that we haven't explained it and we haven't obtained a mandate in the general election for it and fully explained it.
Well, the New Year's Eve Framework Agreement of 2020 talked about an initial 4-year period, but this has now been scrapped. The Chief Minister said there would still be a review clause after 4 years and also a general get-out clause. He said it would only be the UK or the EU who could trigger it. And it's expected that the ferry service from Gibraltar to Morocco will stop operating. Mr. Picardo said the ferry is not commercially viable, our community will no longer need it, and his government could not accept Spanish police officers at the port. He said there will be no Schengen checks there.
Although in principle there would have to, as a matter of legal analysis, have to be Spanish police at the port to do Schengen checks, they will not be there unless there is passenger flow at the port. There isn't passenger flow at the port if what you have are cruise liners, because cruise liners do embarkation immigration at embarkation and disembarkation immigration at disembarkation. When they come for shore excursions, that is not an immigration moment. So you can receive 1 million cruise passengers, and that's not passenger traffic. You only have passenger traffic where you have a ferry.
And we have a ferry.
We've got a
And we have
weekly
a ferry
ferry, no? Is it
that
weekly?
comes weekly or bi-weekly that we have to subsidize. That is not very regular. And the only reason that we have it is because we have some members of the community who are of Moroccan extraction, Moroccan nationality. They don't have British passports and they don't have Schengen visas, and they can't get to the ferry in Algeciras or Tarifa. The vast majority of people who want to go to Morocco from Gibraltar go to Algeciras or Tarifa because they have British passports, they can access the EU. There are 20 ferries a day from Algeciras and from Tarifa, much more frequency. That's why the Gibraltar ferry is not commercially viable. Our view has been, and this is what I've cleared with the cabinet and what we agreed, that we will not grant a license for any ferry to operate from Gibraltar because we no longer need it. It's not economically viable. We don't want to subsidize it, and we don't want the Spanish police officers at the port. In that case, therefore, all immigration will be done by Spain at the airport for arrivals at marinas and the port, commercial arrivals like people who come on merchant sea vessels, crew changes, etc. That's a small number of people. They're moved by Gibraltar. Spain has responsibility for the Schengen immigration status of them, but they're moved by Gibraltar. Spain can accompany us to see that, but they're moved by us. And the immigration is done at the Schengen Shack at Gibraltar Airport, which will have a side entrance for people to be able to do this. That will be open 24 hours a day because at the moment we have immigration 24 hours a day at the frontier, and we have customs 24 hours a day at the frontier. That will move to the Schengen Shack, the second line checks area, and therefore you won't have to have Spanish police at the port, and therefore you no longer have to have Frontex and a 4-year horizon. You can bring certainty.
So the 4-year initial period is gone as well?
It's gone, yeah. There is a review. Every treaty has a review clause because once you start operating under a treaty, you might find things don't work well. The TCA had a review clause, but not a review clause leading to a conclusion. It is simply, as in every treaty, a review clause which we've set or kept at the 4-year period.
Is it a get-out clause?
You don't need it because there's a general get-out clause now. So the treaty will have the equivalent of Article 50, which is that you can get out at any time if you think that the treaty is not operating in your interest. You can get out after 3 years, you can get out after 5 years, or on the 4th year.
So can Spain get out of it if there's a
treaty
change of
between-
government?
It's a treaty between the United Kingdom and the European
So those
Union.
are the only two parties who can get out.
The European Union, because they're the only parties who are in.
Fabian Picardo speaking to our news editor Christine Vasquez and to Jonathan Scott this afternoon there. And one of the Chief Minister's first stops today was for a meeting with the Cross Frontier Group. He thanked the group for their support and for their advocacy for the cause. Representatives included unions, the Chamber of Commerce and the Federation of Small Businesses. The aim for a treaty to be drafted by the autumn was echoed. The Chief Minister met with cross-frontier representatives ahead of setting off to Brussels, and within a couple of hours of returning home, he'd called them back in to thank them for their work. I asked what they spoke about.
He set out the process that is now going to be followed over the summer to conclude the text of the treaty, and obviously we don't have the detail, and we weren't given any more detail than we already knew, and that will be revealed to us when the text is published, which they expect, I think, in the autumn.
He's explained some of the background and some additional detail, which has been very useful to receive.
One of our concerns is that, how is it going to impact the workers on the border is a big concern, because there is a huge part of the workforce that obviously is going to be restructured in terms of fluidity and all that. That's going to have an impact on workers. We want to ensure that those workers are protected.
And have you got those guarantees?
Yes, we have. We've got those guarantees in the UK, we've got those guarantees in Gibraltar, we've got those guarantees everywhere we've advocated.
Darren obviously has reassured, which is paramount, which is to give tranquility to those workers, customs, borders and coast guard. So that is top our agenda, but we've not had the opportunity to go into details, but I'm sure that there will be a lot of further opportunities to do so. There's a lot of work to be done still, and it's only early days.
Nos ha dado una información en líneas generales y nos ha dicho que esto es un proceso que se irá desarrollando, que hay dos líneas básicas, que es que primero no se va a tocar lo que es ningún tema de soberanía. Ahí han sido muy estrictos en ese tema, y eso es importante, y todo lo que venga van a ser temas relacionados con el progreso y la hermandad entre los pueblos, ¿no? Entonces cree que esto es un antes y un después con la relación con el gobierno de España, ¿no? Que esto significa un antes y un después.
Yo creo que la gente está muy contenta. Un poco, además, tanto tiempo esperando, cuando llega la noticia nos queda un poco shock, ¿no? Pero bueno, yo creo que la gente está muy contenta. Yo he recibido muchas llamadas de trabajadores transfronterizos que están encantados, que no acaban de creérselo, pero bueno, aquí está un acuerdo que viene a dar respuesta a las demandas que tanto empresarios como sindicatos de ambos lados de la frontera hemos venido defendiendo desde hace años.
There's still a while to go before we see the text, but it seems the cross-border group is being kept informed. Perhaps a nod to the value of cross-border activism and its role in building bridges across frontiers. Well, GSLP members gave the Chief Minister a warm reception outside No. 6 Convent Place this afternoon. Executive member Joel Baglietto said the idea was to say thank you to the Chief Minister following the announcement of the treaty agreement.
The entrance to No. 6 has seen many a demonstration, but today there was a different atmosphere. There were placards, signs, specially made T-shirts, and Gibraltar and Union flags. This was a homecoming for the Chief Minister following a momentous day for the ROC in Brussels yesterday. Party executive, members and well-wishers wanted to show their support.
This has been a grassroots movement by the party officials and members of the GSLP. Also, there's members here of the Liberal Party. And they felt that after so many years, not only the Chief Minister, but for us, the party leader, was well deserving, as is Joseph Garcia. But for us, Fabian, as capacity as party leader, well deserving of welcoming him, in congratulating him for all these sacrifices he has made, personal and professionally, politically. And here we are. I think the turnout is marvelous, and I can see that there are even people here that don't even belong to the party. So that says a lot. It's for me and for us, it says a lot. It speaks for itself.
There is a lot of explaining still to be done. I suppose that will be done as we progress and we get more information, and obviously the people of Gibraltar will see what the treaty really will be beneficial for us, and economically as well, and for the workers that come in every day, which we need workers to come in every day.
There were cheers when the cabinet appeared, but the loudest ones were reserved for the Chief Minister, Deputy Chief Minister and Sir Joe Bossano. Fabian Picardo showed his gratitude and offered some reassurances.
Que nos llevó al gobierno hace un año y medio. Gracias por comprender todos los detalles. It's not easy to understand the detail of all of this. When the treaty is published, there will be words that we don't like, but there will never be any effect which in any way diminishes the sovereignty of Gibraltar, because we will never sacrifice.
Party members and supporters shared selfies with members of Parliament, in particular the Chief Minister. Many still have questions over the agreement, but today was about saying job well done after many years of negotiations.
But the political agreement between the UK and the EU does not meet with universal acclaim. One individual who has cast his grumbles may sound familiar. Speaking in El Independiente, the infamous former Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel García Margallo has described the agreement as a total renunciation of Spain's political and economic sovereignty. He argues that the deal gives up border control, delegating it to EU and Gibraltar personnel, and entrenches Gibraltar's favourable tax regime, which he says will divert investment away from the Campo de Gibraltar. Mr. Margallo also condemned the lack of transparency, claiming the PP was informed through the media. Well, you're watching GBC News, still to come. More reactions to the political agreement in town and at the KPMG Gaming Summit on the Sunbourn. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to GBC News. The KPMG Gaming Summit brings together many of the key figures in the industry: regulators, operators, employers. It's an opportunity to gather in one place and discuss the most pressing issues affecting gaming on the Rock. Today, much of the conversation was naturally dominated by one thing: the treaty agreement. We asked some of those in attendance what their initial response was to the announcement.
It really builds jurisdictional confidence. The main issue is the fact that we've 2/3 of the industry are cross-border workers. So the idea that obviously the flow of workers to and from Spain it will be guaranteed. It also gives the operators a bit more confidence in terms of employment and recruitment, because one of the things the operators have been saying to me, it's been difficult to recruit people into Gibraltar because of that lack of jurisdictional confidence, and plainly, the treaty alleviates all of those issues. And I think probably finally, as far as inwards investment is concerned, it makes Gibraltar more attractive from an inwards investment point of view. So, at the moment, it all looks like upside for the gambling industry.
It's good to have the certainty over the border. Entain is a big employer in Gibraltar, as you know, and a great deal of our workforce do cross that border every day. So anything that makes life easier for those people makes life easier for our business, and that's a really positive thing.
It's positive news in terms of a frictionless border, or not as much friction on the border. and it also provides an element of certainty. And I think that's really, really important for all businesses, all business sectors, not just the remote gambling sector.
My original reaction is very positive in terms of obviously providing a free-flowing frontier. It's the one issue within the gaming sector they've been saying is the most important issue, so that people can get to work and come into Gibraltar. So I think it's going to be very beneficial for both communities. So we're definitely going to hit the shared prosperity that both Spain and Gibraltar want for the area.
Well, yesterday's agreement was a historic agreement for Gibraltar. I've obviously come here to this conference today to deliver a message that the agreement yesterday underpins Gibraltar's future economic prosperity. That agreement was vital for the gambling sector in Gibraltar. The gambling sector in Gibraltar is the biggest economic sector of all sectors. It's a major employer, and that sector would have been seriously at risk had there been no agreement yesterday.
A lot remains to be seen in terms of the detail of the treaty text, although the Minister did reiterate there will be no VAT on services on the ROC.
We would never have crossed that red line. That was critical for the Gibraltar service industry and indeed for the financial services and gaming sector. I had to make it absolutely clear because you must understand there is a lot of misinformation out there of what the agreement is about. So therefore what we need to do is just set the record straight, and I've done that this morning.
The agreement that was published yesterday does talk about tax in some respects. It doesn't say anything about VAT, and we've had a welcome clarification from Minister Feetham just this morning, which is that there will not be VAT on services. There was some speculation in some bits of the British press last night about that, and it's just not correct. So that is a welcome clarification. That's quite important for the gambling industry and probably other sectors as well.
I still want to understand what VAT on goods means, or if there's going to be a VAT on goods. There's several different models to follow, whether we take a San Marino approach, something that's called monophase, whether we are like Turkey, which is basically they've just got full VAT, but obviously only on goods. So, and Andorra's got VAT, but it's only got 4.5%. So there's lots of levers that need to be pulled and detailed before we're able to assess the impact on the goods-based economy.
Well, we gathered plenty of comments this morning. We'll have more from those in attendance in the coming days. Well, there was generally an upbeat mood in town this afternoon following yesterday's treaty news, as our reporter Katie Docker found. But despite the optimism, some uncertainty and questions.
I think we're going to benefit, obviously, from a free-flowing border, which will be excellent and, nice for us, for our quality of life. But also there is a concern on the effect on prices and inflation, and that will obviously hurt our pocket at the end of the day.
There are lots of hard work, obviously, by the negotiating team over the years. Some form of conclusion now. Let's see what the devil in the detail, as they say. Let's see what comes out, and certainly positive news for Gibraltar.
I know nothing about Gibraltar, but I do know it's like the Shagan Islands, and it's been given away at great expense to British people or English people, and Gibraltar, I could predict that it'll do the same.
Are we talking about an open border, or are we talking about the removal of a frontier fence? I think there are two separate issues, really. And the fence, as such, what segment of the fence is actually going to come down? A very little one, in verdad.
Well, I'm a frontier worker. I've been working here for 25 years, and I hope that the agreement follows through and it provides a lot of opportunities for everybody and back to the sort of freedom of movement that we were having before Brexit.
I myself don't usually cross very often, but we do depend on 15,000 workers, on, hospitals and just the retail shops.
I think, like most people, I'm still a little confused. We haven't really been given the exact terms yet, and as a business owner, what does that mean for my business? There's been a lot of talk about VAT and taxes. Will our corporation tax go up? If so, by how much? What does it mean to harmonise taxes? These are all questions that I'm still waiting for answers on.
I think it will show a way forward that will result in Gibraltar continuing to be British, continuing with an economy, continuing with business, and continuing with our ability to interchange with the hinterland that is Europe, which has 500 million people who can benefit Gibraltar through their business and their connections.
I'm quite happy that whatever they've done, they've looked for our interests. So.
All positive then?
All positive.
People are getting too excited about it because nothing really has been agreed. It's been agreed that there will be an agreement eventually, so we have to take it easy and wait and see.
I'm a business owner and I really appreciate if the VAT doesn't go up too much, and also I would really appreciate if the single market can work out in Gibraltar so that we can ship out our goods into European market as well.
It came as quite a surprise to me because I was busy all day. So by the time I sat down to watch the local news, I thought, wow, yeah, it's looking very positive for all of us and for all the communities involved around the Campo de Gibraltar, especially also our work communities. So yeah, all good.
Well, the whole situation is what it is. Everything is right up in the air at the moment. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of if, buts and maybes. You know, we don't know what's going to happen yet.
Well, that's all from the GBC News team for now. Viewpoint is on in half an hour. Rosa Stengo will be hosting the Chief Minister, answering your questions on the political agreement. And I'm joined by the woman herself, Ros. It looks like you have a lot of questions there.
Shalina, it has been non-stop, as we've just seen in those two packages, the KPM dinner and also the Vox Pop that Katie did. There's still a lot of questions, still a lot of uncertainty. And at the end of yesterday's special Viewpoint, we did say that we were going to be hosting the Chief Minister, Fabian Picardo, tonight, and we were going to give him an hour and a half, which we've decided to answer questions. And since then, it's been non-stop. So there have been questions coming in on all sorts of issues. You know, the checks at the airport, the checks at the port, questions about boots on the ground, questions about the marina, questions about visas and property, and all sorts of emails have been coming in literally non-stop. But if you do have an email that you would like to send me, viewpoint@gbc.gi, do send in your question. A lot of them are quite similar, so I'm hoping I might be able to group some of them together. But if you have a question you'd like to ask, particularly one that hasn't been asked or one that you'd want some clarification on, viewpoint@gbc.gi. Join me in half an hour.
Thank you, Ros. I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say we're looking forward to it. That's at 9:30 right here on GBC Television. We now leave you with images from this evening's King's Birthday Parade. From the team and myself, it's good night.